got one. Yeah, they just want to update us later though. Yeah, was it from? Let's begin the council hearing with a prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted today the wisdom to make our decision will be the best of our city. Pray to bless on all those who work to serve working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Sorry. Let's just respect to the flag of religion. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the republic, which is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Council Noon.
Here.
Mayor Samaras. Council Cirillo.
Here.
Council Conway. Council Elliott.
Here.
Council Kennedy.
Here.
Council Leahy.
Here.
Council Mercia.
Here.
Council Milanazzo.
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. We have a minute from City Council meeting on February 6th for acceptance.
So move.
Moved by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Kennedy. The motion's passed. Vote to cancel City Council meeting of February 20 and April 17, 2018. Request to waive a full reading. Second reading by title. To cancel City Council meeting of February 20 and April 17, 2018. Motion to adopt
So moved.
by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Leahy. Roll call, please.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Mayor Samaras. Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway. Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milanazzo.
Yes.
7 yeas.
Motion is passed. Unfinished business. This is order abandoned portion of Lowell Street. Public hearing was held a while back and it was closed. If I could have the managers before the council vote to adopt it, manager to update us on the meeting between party and the city, please.
Yes, we met with all of the parties at Lowell Street, and Sarah Brown did a tremendous job. I have to congratulate her, is that we reached an agreement that the deed will have a restriction that the fence has to be built 14 feet back, and that there'll be no gate on the Lowell side of the fence. All the parties agree. The Tuckers were going to be here this evening, but he had a medical issue, but he did email us that he agrees to those conditions. And Sarah, thank you very much for your good work. Without you, it couldn't have been done.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and thank you, Sarah.
Move
John,
approval.
Councilor Leahy,
Sure.
question?
I just had a quick
Go ahead,
question.
sir.
On the docket, I didn't actually see the agreement like on the drawing, but is this kind of just the old paperwork? So, all right. I know that the fence was supposed to go 14, but in the drawing that we got, it looked like the fence went right along the line went right along there.
We'll make sure that it's in the deed, it's set out sufficient to make sure that everybody understands it's the 14 feet.
Yeah,
Back.
the boundaries for the
Right.
city, at least, will show that. And then the thing with the gate, there won't be a gate on Newhall Street.
Right.
But there won't be a gate going down the center aisle either, right?
No.
Yeah, okay. All right, and that'll all be in the new agreement? Okay, thank you. I happen to be there, and I just wanted to say that
That's what I'm
everybody
saying.
everybody did a great job, so they were happy, everybody compromised a little bit, and the job got done, so thank you.
Move approval.
Thank you, Council Leahy. Move approval. Council Kennedy.
Second.
Second by Councilors Malinazzo. Call the roll, please, Mr. Clerk.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Mayor Samaras. Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway. Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
7 yeas.
Thank you. Communication from City Manager. First is City of Lowell marketing campaign. This is a motions by Councilor Leahy. Do I have any discussion on it? Next is the,
Your Honor?
go ahead, Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. I just want, I don't really have any questions. It was a good report, and it's a good start. So I just wanted to thank everybody involved for the report. And it's just a good, let's keep the ball rolling here and see what we can do for the downtown and get everybody involved, the whole, as a community of the whole, and just keep this process going. So thank you for the report.
Thank you, Councilor Leahy. Anybody else? Next is this tax impact, and this is a motions by, I believe, is Councilor Elliott and Councilor Leahy. Any comment on the report? All right. Next is the status of capital project. Councilor Elliott.
Yeah, no, thank you. This is a good report, and I can't recall if we sent this to the Finance Subcommittee. I think we did, but I just want to ensure that we did. There's good information about the 2018 property valuations. I think it would be helpful to the folks at home that did call myself and Council A, and I'm sure my colleagues here. So, and it is an explanation of the third quarter bills, because we're probably just a good reminder to let people know that we're on the quarterly bill system to make it essentially more affordable, but the last 2 quarters is when we set the tax rate, and then it's adjusted accordingly. And I do think that people get confused over that. So I do think it's a thorough report, and it has lots of good information. And we will hold. I think I was trying to schedule a subcommittee meeting in the next couple of weeks, but I think in light of the manager's search, that we'll have to kick it out a little bit.
So Councilor Elliott want to refer that to the Finance Subcommittee to have more discussion.
I'll
on
make
it.
the motion again. I believe when the motion was made, they referred, but that I'm glad all this information was given to all members of the council.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Councilor Cirillo, and then Councilor Leahy.
Yes, I would greatly appreciate you going over what's in the report so that the residents of Lowell can actually, just a quick review of what's in the report so that the residents of Lowell can hear what is in the report. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The report lays out the property valuation process and how the tax bill is calculated over the 4 quarters that Lowell bills for. The values are calculated as of January 1st of each year, so it's that third quarter is the first actual bill. The first 2 bills of the years, the fiscal year, are the preliminary tax bills. So when a property value is set by the assessors, any increase in the market is spread over those last 2 bills after the tax rate process, which happens in the December timeframe when the council takes the vote on the minimum residential factor and the city submits the recapitulation sheet to the Department of Revenue for approval on the tax rate. So that's one component of the report. The other was about the abatement process, and it goes over the different kinds of abatements that residents may be eligible for, whether they're statutory abatements for different classes that are set forth in the general laws, seniors, widows, veterans, etc., how to find out more information about those and how to apply for them, as well as for overvalue abatement. So if an individual homeowner feels that the change to the value of their home is not comparable with their neighbors, etc., they can submit application for abatement. However, it's important to note that in order to do so, you must first pay the tax bill, submit the application, and then you will receive a hearing from the local board of assessors. So that's sort of a general overview of the memo that was delivered here tonight. Also, it goes over the efforts of this council this year to lessen the impact of the budget on the tax bill. So there were 2 votes that were taken. One was to utilize a portion of the overlay surplus. Every year, the city is required by the Department of Revenue to put aside an amount of money for those abatements, and they accumulate year to year, and if a surplus is declared by the Board of Assessors, the council has the opportunity to use that to offset the tax rate. That was done this year by this council, as well as a portion of the free cash was utilized, $500,000 to be used towards next year's tax rate to help ease the burden on the residents as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilor Leahy, go ahead,
Thank
sir.
you.
And then Councilor Elliott.
Sure, I just did want to mention what Councilor Elliott said. We did schedule a finance meeting that'll happen, and we'll go over this whole report. But we did receive a couple of emails this week, and I think people are getting confused with the evaluations if you have a 2-family or 3-family or a multifamily. Somebody confused that and was wondering why the assessor's office was still at their house. This has nothing to do with that, right? The evaluations are separate on the multifamilies. This is just an explanation on what we're doing with, on the 3rd and 4th quarter tax rates, on how it works and how the city applies the tax schedule across the year and all that. So I just wanted to clarify that up, since we're kind of addressing to the general public tonight that, you know, a few people that did send us the emails about evaluations, that's totally separate, so, from the assessor's office. So, that's all.
Thank you, Councilor
Yep.
Leahy. Councilor Elliott, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to, I lost my thought. Oh, I just want to follow up that there is an explanation on the property valuation portion of this as well. And so we'll discuss that at the next meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Anybody else? Next is the municipal health insurance report from the manager. Any discussion on that? Next is the MSBA February 2nd, 2018 meeting summary. Any discussion on that? Councilor Leahy?
Thank you, through the manager. Thank you for the report. It's a good report, and I was present last night at the meeting, the building committee meeting. The only thing I did want to just make sure for my own edification is, whenever we schedule the next meeting, we're going to get clarification on the field house gymnasium episode and see what we can do.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have the discussion came up that they wanted us to reach out to the MSBA about 2 issues, the new building site and the field house gymnasium issue, and we have a telephone conference at 8:30 tomorrow morning, and we'll discuss both of those issues and then report back to everybody.
Okay, is anybody from the school involved in that discussion? I happened to be there for the science fair today, and they were kind of brainstorming on the needs, and so I didn't know if you would, if we reached out to the athletic director, who actually kind of went through this with the Baruca renovation.
So I've been, the emails have been going through today. Bob Bell from Perkins Eastman last night was talking about getting the educational leadership team together to go over a number of different issues, one being what will happen with the students who have been assigned to pool as a swimming class. They're looking to meet, I believe it's Monday, February 26th. So a number of those items will be addressed along with the gym space, which you talked about last night, the 18,000 square feet that is the MSBA limit.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
The MSBA, the gym, the square footage that you're
Right,
talking about,
referring
that's
to,
the
yeah.
18,000 square feet, that's what they recommend. So the ELT will be discussing all of those items with what they will have to do with the students in terms of assigning them to class and space.
Okay. I just want to be very clear on this, that, we've got to fight for every inch that we can get over at that high school, because, and I understand now that what they're saying is education is different from maybe the sports, or however they want to refer to it, but Lowell High is much more than 8 to 2:30. This, not having a functioning field house where we can host events like the winter track meets and the basketball games and the wrestling, I mean, this is tradition in Lowell as we know it. And, to strictly go by the guidelines and say, well, this is what we allow and this is it. We're willing to pitch in a little bit more too, but we've got to actually build what we need and what's functional here for the city of Lowell. I mean, these kids benefit greatly from that, There's much more going on than just a track meet or wrestling meet or a basketball game. It's so much more, bringing people into the city and just exposing these students to so much more. So we've got to fight for what we really need over there, and what we need is a functioning field house from what we have so we can host these events.
So what will happen, just keep in mind, so tomorrow's phone call will talk about the new high school on the expanded site, and then also, as the manager just mentioned, the gym space. But we will not have an answer tomorrow after the phone call. What will happen is there will be the initial discussion with MSBA, and then at some point in the very near future, Perkins will probably go down to the MSBA and make their case of why we need the larger space, that 27,000 square foot second floor big open gym, and as well as the 3,000 square foot rooms down on the first floor, gym, fitness room, gymnastics, and then a multi-purpose room. So they'll have an opportunity probably within the next handful of weeks here to actually get down and make their case of why we need that contiguous 27,000 square foot space up top on the second floor.
Okay, and we're not really gonna be, I just hope we're not holding the process up while we're waiting for answers too. I hope they're making 2 sets of drawings and
No,
arguments, and you know what I mean? We're not just
Correct.
focusing on one situation again and then, oh, we can't get it, now we go back. I understand we want them to keep working and multiple drawings and multiple,
Correct, and speaking with Bob Bell today, that he doesn't feel that this is going to hold up this, trying to make that June MSBA board meeting, so this will not impact that whatsoever, so.
okay. And then there was discussion, at some point, we have to talk about, if it's option 3, we gotta talk about what we're gonna do for taking a vote on eminent domain and get that, have a discussion and get moving on that too, so.
Yes, Elliot Veloso, the Assistant City Solicitor, said that he'll have a schedule for eminent domain in the very, very near future, which will be some guidance for the council of really the timeframe of what you should explore.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilor Maldonado, and then Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. To follow up on Councilor Leahy's point, when we were at the MSBA last week, the woman who heads up the architectural division, she seemed very willing to listen to the argument on the gym, in my opinion. She seemed, based upon the 3,500 student population, she seemed that there was a willingness there to kind of stretch the guidelines, if you will. So I'm confident, and Councilor Leahy brings up some good points, that you'll be successful in those discussions. I know we won't have an answer tomorrow, but you'll be successful. My question has to do, again, on the report, where you talked about by February 9th, we were going to have the new cost estimates from Perkins, Eastman, and Skanska. Is there an update there, Mr. Manager, at this particular point in time, or are we still talking with?
February 9th?
Yeah, unless I misread that, but it's on page 3. It says, on or before February 9th, the consultant fee information will be submitted. It's on the last page of the report.
Oh, I'm sorry, for the consultant's costs.
Correct, yes.
Yes, we actually submitted that, and after a couple days of negotiations between Perkins and Skanska, their fees will be covered under the $2 million feasibility appropriation that was voted on by the council a couple of years ago.
Great.
So-
Good work, thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you. I think we decided last night, at the meeting last night, that it would be Perkins Eastman that would take up the gymnasium versus the field house, but it was going to be the city manager's office that was going to take up the discussion over the new school option. If we're not getting an answer on the gymnasium and the field house tomorrow, what about the new school option? Are we likely to get an answer on that tomorrow? Is that something that can be decided quickly?
That's what I'm going to ask for. I'm just going to say that that was a major, major point of the discussion, and that we really need an answer so that we can get some direction as to timing and everything.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So either, we should hear on that late tomorrow morning either way, one way or the other, how
Yeah,
that
I will-
conversation went?
Yeah, what I'll do is I will email a report to everybody as to how the discussions went with, on the telephone conference.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Councilor
Mr.
Kennedy.
Chairman.
Councilor Elliott, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was significant discussion. I thought it was a good meeting last night that we trying to wade through these issues. One of the issues that were discussed was eminent domain by Attorney Veloso, and it is a complicated process. And I think it would be helpful to this body if we could get a report or an explanation on what the process is, and if we could, excuse me, if we could include the remediation piece or the testing piece when that fits in that schedule, I think that would be, certainly be helpful moving forward to know exactly, because that is an issue. We won't need to get on the site to do testing if that's going to be the case. So.
And Mr. Veluso is preparing that report right now.
Oh, he is? Okay,
Yes,
maybe we
and
ask him that
he'll be
the second thing, I know there was maybe some confusion about the relocation and the number. Well, he did provide the citation on what the state law says. That would be helpful as well when it comes to relocation. And after 4, or was it 5 businesses, Madam Solicitor? If there are 5 or more, there's a different track that we have to go down, and that requires a relocation plan, as I understood it last night, versus if it's 5 or less, then it's just assistance provided by the state. So I think that's kind of a big component as well that we need to get a little bit better of an understanding on. So I just wanted to bring that forward. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. It was a very interesting meeting last night with the Sanska Perkins Eastman, and we are in this section E is the MSBA February 2nd meeting as requested by Councilor Leahy to get a report as to what we missed if we didn't go down there. And it says that the requirements in regard to eminent domain, the MSBA explained full control, use, and ownership of the property must be accomplished on the doctor's property before the scope of the budget approval. That's what it says here. That's what MSBA said. And last night I was listening to the solicitor, Elliot Velasco, and he said that he believes there's 4 businesses. I'd like to set the record straight and say there are actually 6 doctor's offices at 75 Arcan Drive. For the record, I checked. I could tell you all of their names, but there's 6 doctor's offices, and so we're not going below 4. As he stated last night, he believed they were 4. Well, for a fact, there are 6. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Anybody else? Councilor Kennedy, go ahead.
Yeah, again, I don't think it really matters whether there was 5 or more or less than 5. It's just that we had to do different things. But I also think that part of the discussion last night, the law department was requested to come up with a schedule for an eminent domain schedule based on the idea that we would be before the MSBA in June, and then an alternative schedule based on the idea that we would have to wait until August before we got the MSBA, in order that we can act in a timely fashion and be able to take that property if we need to in time for those MSBA meetings.
I do concur with my fellow councilors that last night's meeting, the school building committee meeting was very productive. address a number of issues. Eminent domain is one of them. I do heard the same thing as Councilor Elliott, that any relocations, any businesses, more than 5 businesses, do have to provide relocation plans. So be it 5 or 6, 7, that we as a city will have to do that. Thank you. All right, motions to accept and place on file.
So moved.
Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Malinazzo. Next is communication from the city manager requesting out-of-state travel, 1 from the Korea Center and 2 from our Lowell Police Department. Motions to adopt.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Councilor Kennedy, second Councilor Cirillo. Roll call, please.
Council Newman.
Yes?
Mayor Samaras. Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway. Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
That's 7 yeas.
Motion passed. Vote from the city manager. Vote to authorize the city manager request minor change to the Acre City Industrial Revitalization Plan. Request to waive for reading, second reading. Authorize the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to request approval from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development of minor plans change to the Acre City Industrial Park Revitalization and Development Plan. You hear motions?
Move approval.
Councilor
Second.
Kennedy, second by Councilor Cirillo. The roll call, please.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we just-
Councilor Leahy. Go
could I
ahead,
just ask the manager to explain this a little bit?
Mr. Manager.
Yes, Joey, if you come up for any questions. Basically, there are 2 votes on the council agenda tonight relative to us acquiring parcels for parking of buses as part of the National Park land exchange. The first one is to make the changes to this revitalization plan, and then the second one is a confirmatory order of taking, which will remove any title issues relative to the property. So this is to effectuate the land transfer with the National Park Service.
Okay, so in the second vote, it had a map of the land and stuff. That's what I had questions
Yep.
on, so I'll wait until the next vote.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leahy. Anybody else? Okay, so a motions by Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Malinazzo. Call the roll, please.
Council Newman.
Yes?
Mayor Samaras. Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway. Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
That's 7 yeas.
Motion passed. Vote to transfer $150,000 to fund restoration service at the Polar Memorial Library. Request to waive a full reading, second reading by title. Order to transfer $150,000 in fund for restoration service at the Polar Memorial Library. Motions to adopt.
Move to adopt.
Councilor Kennedy, Councilor Cirillo, second. Roll call, please, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Councilor Elliott, sorry.
Thank you. On the motion, I know we need to make this transfer out of the contingency fund. What is the balance in there now, and have we used any this fiscal year from that contingency fund, and what would be the balance?
Thank you, Counselor. To date, the city council has transferred $200,000. There was an original balance of $400,000 in the contingency.
Oh, I see it, okay.
So after this $150,000 transfer, there will remain a balance of $50,000.
Right. What was that, the previous transfer for 200 for?
Oh, if you can give me a sec, I can tell you.
While he's looking, I just want, we anticipate opening up the library on February 22nd. All of the repairs should be completed by then. The 26th, February 26th. All the repairs will be done, and we will reopen the library.
Okay. Mr. Manager, I know that the cost was significant. This isn't covering the whole cost of the renovation. What's the total cost at this point?
No, this isn't, We anticipate about $350,000.
Okay.
And there's state aid account for the library that goes towards the upkeep of the library, and we're using some of that money also, a large amount of that money. We've met with the librarian, and she agrees that it's in the best interest of opening up the library, and we will use any and all methods to secure funding to replenish that money for further upkeep of the library down the road.
There is a Board of Library from the state that does provide this $169,000. Is there any opportunity? I mean, I know that they provide grants, and this is part of a grant for a disaster or for, you know, situations like this. I mean, this isn't a purpose for it, but it is a good use for it, knowing how much the cost was. But any opportunity for more state funds?
I've asked the Division of Planning and Development to reach out to all agencies, especially this agency, to see if there's money available to help with the repairs. And I know the Lieutenant Governor had talked about some money. Apparently it's a fund of $25,000 that can go towards the repairs, and we're seeking that money also.
Great. Okay, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. I know the motion was, there's someone, Councilor Kennedy has made a motion to adopt, and second by Councilor Cirillo, so roll call, please.
Council New.
Yes.
Mayor Samaras. Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
7 yeas.
Motion passed. Now that it's 7 o'clock, it's a general public hearing, ordinance amended Chapter 56, Personnel Ordinance, second reading by title. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinance, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 56, entitled Personnel. Open to public hearing. Anybody here speak in support of this ordinance? Anybody here? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody here speaking in opposition to the ordinance? Anybody here speak in opposition of the ordinance? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Go into Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. You know, Mr. Manager, I have concerns about voting for this, and I expressed it when this came before us. And my concerns are, you know, the $1 million figure that will cover all employees. And my understanding is, and I've read the law, that there is a state law that covers this at this point. Is that the case, or is the case that we have to adopt this part of the law in order to provide this coverage?
So no, the law does provide the council with the option of indemnification, and there are certain circumstances where, under 258, indemnification is required. The ordinance is something that some communities have adopted. It is intended to cover counselors, department heads, and others. Right now, you have individuals that are covered by way of contract, and so this was meant to, by ordinance, sort of address those that aren't covered by contracts.
Have there ever been any cases where we don't cover employees for?
There was one instance where where an individual was by law not allowed to be covered, and the council had voted special legislation to cover them, and that was in the case of an award of punitive damages. However, other than that, whether by settlement or by a judgment, individuals have always been indemnified by the city. To the best of my recollection, I can't think of an instance in which that hasn't happened.
Which kind of speaks to my case. I don't know why. My concern is that this opens up the floodgates to any potential lawsuit that could possibly come through. I do see that there is language in here that I don't support, Mr. Manager, and that is, you know, the state law does. The state law has accepts, there's an exemption, excuse me, for intentional violations of civil rights for any persons, and that's included in this. And I personally just feel that there's exposure to the city. And I don't think it, you know, I don't think that it should be in here. If the state's not covering it, then why, you know, why are we? You know, the other part is then there are expenses that the city has to pick up for any outside counsel. You know, that just doesn't make sense to me, and I just don't feel that this is, you know, I think it needs some more studies, some more understanding. Maybe, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I just think this is, if we cover, if there is coverage, if we do indemnify, certainly police and fire and others are, I don't really understand what this is, and I'm concerned about the exposure that this has. Certainly with that language, if the state's law doesn't cover it, you know, why are we? And first and foremost, and secondly, the language, the expense incurred by the official employee for outside counsel shall be borne by the city. Why is that included in here?
Sure. That also has traditionally always been the case. So in the event that there is a determination made that, say, a number of individuals are, a suit is brought against a number of individuals and a determination is made that it would be appropriate that we have other counsel representing the interests of some of these other individuals, then in those cases, those attorneys' fees have been covered. And that has always been the case.
So can I ask why the chief executive officer is not referenced in here if there is a determination that that there is a conflict of interest, or
The chief
the
executive
solicitor
officer.
designates an agent or designee? Why wouldn't that be the city manager if there is a conflict and it requires outside counsel?
Right, this, the version that I'm looking at has the city manager identified, but but he certainly would be included in this. Typically, a manager is always covered, and they're covered by contract. So, for example, the past city manager would have this provision in his contract, again, as do a number of other positions. So, but this, because the current city manager does not have a contract, and that may be the case going forward, that position was included in this as well.
Okay, well, I'd make a motion to refer this back to the manager and have those two sections taken out of this ordinance, and, you know, which would be more in line with the state law that includes this indemnification.
And I'll
Councilor
second
Elliott
that.
motions to refer
Second.
back to the city manager, second by Councilor Murcia. Let me just go to Councilor Malinazzo and then Councilor Kennedy, comment on it, and then we can do roll call.
Thank you. I'll support that motion because I do think that something like this should have the full complement of the council to review it and vote one way or the other. Question, does the rule of necessity apply here since the council is actually part of the ordinance?
Yes, it would apply here.
Okay. Again, I think it makes sense to do that, and maybe at some point, either the finance subcommittee or the personnel subcommittee should look at it as well, so I'll support the motion.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you. Through you to the clerk. This requires 6 votes?
I believe it just requires 5 according to the.
Just 5 votes?
I vote yes.
Okay. I'm ready to support this evening. I don't really see a problem with it, but given that we're down to 7 members, it looks like maybe it wouldn't pass this evening. So I'm fine with the delay. I think it's better that we wait till there's a full complement.
Yeah, I think giving the absence of the mayor and Councilor Conway, and you know, it wouldn't hurt to have more study on it and then come back, and then we can vote on it at that time. So, Councilor Elliott?
Well, I think Council Malinazzo makes a good point that we refer back to the manager, and then we get a report, that we have a discussion. We really haven't had a long discussion. I think there are some implications here.
Right.
Clearly, we want to make sure we protect our employees, but we also have to, you know, address the exposure, you know, to the city and ultimately, you know, taxpayers. So I would refer it to the manager, as well as, once we receive the report, send it to the personnel subcommittee if there's no objection.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. With Councilor Elliott motion to refer it back to the city managers, can we do a roll call on that?
We can if you want.
Yes, please.
Counsel New,
Yes.
Mayor Samaras, Counsel Cirillo,
Yes.
Counsel Conley, Counsel Elliott,
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy. Yes. Counsel Leahy,
Yes.
Counsel Mercia,
Yes.
Counsel Milonazi.
Yes.
7 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we back on the regular agenda is order from the city manager, confirmatory orders of taking airplane requested to waive full reading, second reading by title, to take by eminent domain certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purpose in furtherance of the Air City Industrial Park urban revitalization development plans. Any discussion on that? I'm going to hear from Councilor Mercia first, council, and then if any other council want to have a discussion on it, and then we'll find a second on your motion. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, is there any property being taken from the YMCA at all?
No, there is not, Counselor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Councilor Leahy?
Sure, just, could you point out the land is right around the YMCA?
So this is the collection of parcels that the city acquired from the MBTA in order to replicate the bus parking lot that the National
Okay.
Park Service has over in the Hamilton Canal District right now.
Yeah.
So the city went and built the bus parking lot so then we can exchange this land with the National Park Service for the land in the Hamilton Canal District.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. On Councilor Kennedy motions, do I hear a second on Councilor Kennedy motion? Councilor Malinazzo, can I have a roll call on that?
Counsel New,
Yes.
Mayor Samaras, Counsel Cirillo,
Yes.
Counsel Conway, Counsel Elliott,
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy,
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazi.
Yes.
Motion's passed.
7 yeas.
I wonder if Councilor Mercia want to give a report on the subcommittee on park and recreations that was happened tonight. Councilor Mercia, would you like to?
Yes, yes,
Go
thank
ahead.
you, thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Before the city council meeting this evening, the Parks Subcommittee meeting met in the council chamber at 5:30. Present was the Director of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, Henry Marchand, and then we had Andy Jacobson, who's the president of the Board of Cool, and then we had Nancy Salvage, who is the designer for the sculpture. Let me give you a brief history of the Utopian Park. The artwork, which is envisioned as a signature work of public art in Utopian Park, as a part of the Hamilton Canal District overlooking the confluence of the Lower Pawtucket and Hamilton Canals. It will be the 12th piece of art in Lowell's public art collection. The effort was initiated as a collaborative project led by the Cultural Organization of Lowell, which is cool, in partnership with the city, the Lowell National Historic Park, and others. The sculpture design is perforated stainless steel as water spiraling cylindrical inserts as spinning turbines. The artist is, again, as I said, Nancy Salvage, who is the designer. And there is a contractor from Rhode Island that this fabrication will be coming from, and it'll be installed. I just want to go over some other notes that we discussed at this meeting. Andy talked about his goal to get this installed sometime in June or July before the grants elapsed. It would take about 12 weeks to have that happen. They would be putting finalize the footing that will go down first to make it solid. At one point, the height would have been 21 feet high with 40 feet long, but it is 16 feet high and 30 feet long. The scope of the project was reduced because of finances, but all in all, they've come up with a good sizable amount of money. We did learn that the grants, with the help of the city manager, Murphy, was extended to July, because we know that grants have timelines, but it was extended thanks to the city manager. Cool is the contractor, and the fabrication is based in Rhode Island, to this company in Rhode Island. Once this project is completed, it would be brought and accepted as a gift by the city. I just want to say that the cultural organization of Lowell secured and managed the grant funding, and is contracting agency for they're the contracting agency for the hydro. The city of Lowell developed Utopian Park, facilitating the process, and will receive the sculpture as a gift. I just wanted to say about the budget, because it's a very expensive project here. But I want to say that the grant partners managed to come together. The Parker Foundation will donate $50,000. Nancy Salvage from the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, $54,000. National Endowment of the Arts, $40,000. New England Foundation for the Arts, $25,000. And CDBG Community Development Block Grant Funding, $25,000, for a total of $194,000. So we're talking a good bit of money, and everybody is on board with this. So by April and May, the site work footing will take place. May and June, the installation will take place. It's about 12 weeks, and we're hoping to have a dedication in July. So I think it's a good collaborative partnership that has taken place here. I'm very proud of all those that stepped up to make this happen. When you look at the beautiful picture and you see that this is the shining star in the Hamilton Canal District area, you will see that this piece of art is just great, because our city seal is art is the handmaid of human good, and this is what it'll be. It'll be the frosting on the cake, and we're very proud of all our partners that are making this happen. So thank you very much to everybody involved. And we'll be looking forward for a July celebration, and we'll be happy about it. Thanks.
You must be very excited, because after all those years of work, right? Hard work, right?
Thank you so much. It started out in 2011, and I've been there since. So, but let me clarify the name, because people get confused. It's Utopian Park, a feeling of utopia, but it's Utopian Park. Thank you very much.
Great job, great job. So, a motion to accept report as report of progress.
So moved.
Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Cirillo. Thank you. Claim, property claim. We have one property claim, want to refer to the law department for report and recommendation. Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Malinazzo. Thank you. And then we have a miscellaneous. Sang Jiang Li, United Dental, requests permission to install overhanging sign at 131 Merrimack Street. Motion to refer this to the law department for report and recommendation.
So moved.
Councilor Murcia, second by Councilor Malinazzo. Motion's passed. Now, portion of the City Council motion. Councilor Elliott motion requests City Council discuss joining other municipality in a class action suit against manufacturer of opium. Councilor. Second by Councilor Murcia. I'm sorry, Councilor Elliott, go ahead, sir.
I'm not sure if I had the terminology right, but I wanted to get the motion in this week. I'm not sure if it's a class action or if it is just a lawsuit that we would file in concert with or similar to other cities, towns, and states. And I believe there's a growing number of municipalities, clearly here in Massachusetts, among them Quincy, Woburn, Methuen, Revere. And I strongly feel that the pharmaceutical companies need to be held accountable for this. Yes, we have taken measures, the state and the nation, in terms of tracking prescription drugs. Certainly in Massachusetts, it's been so far successful. And treatment and education we certainly have, but the damage is done. And I think that's why other communities are seeking remedy from these companies. They knew what they were doing. They got big, deep pockets in Washington, and they're huge conglomerates that that were the cause of this, in my opinion. I think they willingly knew what they were doing, dispensing millions and millions of opiates and making billions. That it's time that they pay. We've made great strides, but it's still a very, very serious issue here in the city. And we know that, and there's been a cost. There's been an economic cost, and that's what many cities and towns and states are suing for. Certainly treatment, they are responsible for this cause, and I feel that treatment is an avenue that we need the most help on, communities and cities and towns. So I know there's been lots of information and articles and news stories on this. I feel that, I put it up for discussion because I don't want to, if it needs to be perhaps information received from the law department and the manager on exactly, what we want the suit, what is the suit, what are other communities and cities, what exactly the language is. So I thought it was worthy of a discussion and perhaps refer it to the manager and come back with what are exactly the terms of some of the other lawsuits. I think there were 39 states now that have followed this path. So that's the motion, and look forward to hearing comments from my colleagues and what direction
Councilor Murcia.
we feel we should take.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. If you were looking at the Sunday Sun, on February 11th, there was an article about OxyContin makers to stop marketing to doctors. It was a very informative article. It said that the lawsuit says that drug makers misled doctors and patients about the risk of opioids by enlisting front groups or key opinion leaders who oversold the drugs, benefited, and encouraged overprescribing. That's what they did. And he also went on to say that the companies have promoted themselves as a treatment for chronic pain, where they are more harmful and less helpful because it's more profitable. It's all about the money, and you have to send a message. So let me tell you what the stats say. The United States death linked to opioids have quadrupled since the year 2000 to roughly 42,000 in 2016, or about 115 lives lost per day because of this. Something has to be stopped, and maybe this motion and all the states combined can say, and put a scare to say, it's about people's lives, not about your profit. So this is a good motion. Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would the maker of the motion like to refer this to the law department, that a resolution could be drawn up, or refer it to the city manager's office, or refer it to the mayor's office for further action?
Councilor Elliott.
Yeah, I don't have any objection. I think it was just a motion to have this discussion to see what the best tactic is. I do think a resolution would be helpful. I also think that we should, perhaps join other cities, if possible, in the lawsuit. But I know I would certainly defer to the city solicitor.
Thank you. Madam City Solicitor.
Sure, thanks. It is a great motion, and it mirrors actually what our efforts have been over the past couple months, actually going back even a little bit further. There's a number of different firms throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and, of course, across the nation that are soliciting different municipalities to join on with them. We have met with some and spoke to some of these and reviewed all the proposals that have come our way. As of last week or the week before, we had settled on a particular firm. It's one that, it's a conglomerate of law firms. And one of those law firms, we had been in a prior represented the city of Lowell in a prior class action suit as well. So I will prepare a report for the council to sort of update us as to where we are, what the terms are, and what some of the other options are that we had taken a look at.
Thank you. If I may say so, this is a great motion. One way, I would say when we're successful, recoup the money that we spent in addressing this opiate crisis. So, good motion, Council. Next motion. Motion by Councilor Elliott, request city manager to contact Department of Mental Health and State House delegation regarding closing of the mental health center in Lowell. Second, do I hear second? Councilor Mercia, second. Councilor Elliott. Go ahead,
The
sir.
motion to speak for itself, I did see the article in the newspaper, Mr. Manager. I guess I was confused. Council Lee and I were talking today, and is it the one on Merrimack Street, or is it the one up off Farnham Avenue? Or I thought it was
The
Farnham
Farnham
Avenue.
Avenue one. We've had problems here in the past, but we'll give a report relative to it.
No, I think as we just talked about, the opioid crisis, and clearly even before that, there is a need for mental health services here in Lowell, in the greater Lowell area. And now the only facility that was just recently open is now closed. I think we need to be going in the opposite direction, and I understand they had to close it for building code issues and health issues, that it should not be open. But this is a critical service I feel that we need in this city, and now we have just the one on Merrimack Street. Is that correct? So I think it's very important that we contact the delegation to see what the plans are. If it is to put, to bring it up to code and to reopen and provide services, I think that would be helpful. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Anybody else? All right. Go ahead, Councilor Mercia.
I remember many years ago, of course I could, but anyway, I remember many years ago when they closed Solomon Mental Health, and Richard Howe was the mayor, along with City Councilor Bud Caulfield, and the three of us went to Boston to the Department of Mental Health, Public Health, and we begged them to try to find ways and means to keep that place open, and they didn't. It's almost like an effort in futility now to ask them if they could help us, but it's worth a try. But we've already tried many years ago to keep Solomon's open. We don't realize that people need to be monitored and mentored when they have mental illness. They need to be structured through intervention, through supervision. And when a place closes down, they're apt to not go to the alternative place. Maybe it's too far for them. Maybe they don't have ways and means to get there. So the fact remains that they're out into society without being overseen. I know this dealing with people in the sheriff's office, and a lot of times they're on medication and they're fine. Once they're off it, we can tell they need to be structured and overseen. All it takes is that medication to calm them down and make them live a relatively normal life. And so this is a very bad situation, because they're going to go out into the street and be the most vulnerable people around. God knows what they're going to do. And it's sad, and they don't even probably realize it. So I'm thinking this is a very serious issue. Everybody that's on drugs is not because they're on drugs and they're high or whatever. There's mental illness around. So this is a concern that I have, and it's a good motion, and I don't know what we could do to make them realize that we need a facility to help people that are not well balanced through no fault of their own. So this is what I wanted to say.
Thank you. My understanding that the owner and operator of this Solomon Mental Health also own and operate other mental health in the state. My understanding also is that the reason where the Department of Mental Health closed down the Solomon, and they did close down other as well, not in Lowell, but in other city and town in the Commonwealth. They're one of the second largest mental health provider in the state of Massachusetts. They closed down because the care, the lack of care and safety of the patient as well as the staff. So, yeah, I totally support the motion to find out how we can address this issue, because it certainly open it. You have to have a safe for the patient and the staff as well. And the concern is that the owner and operator of this Solomon Mental Health has not been responsive to addressing that issue for the Department of Mental Health. So, good motion, thank you. My motion, actually, requesting the city manager provide a report to the city council regarding the emergency management response plans that include flood, natural disasters, and so on for the city. I know that we have a registered speaker tonight. Mr. Clerk, who's that? Well, let me get first. Second, Councilor Leahy, thank you. Mr. Clerk, Speaker.
Paul Belay.
Mr. Belay, thank you, sir, for being here.
Good evening. Oh, hello. Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Manager, member of the City Council. First of all, I want to apologize. I had surgery on my voice 3 weeks ago, so we'll get through this. I have my own statement, and Mr. Vice Mayor, Bob Gagnon, who's in the Florida Keys right now fishing, and I'm jealous, has also sent a letter. With your permission, I'd like to read it after mine.
Absolutely, sir.
Yes,
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor Noon, for bringing this motion forward. And as we approach the spring and the Bladder Dam is under construction, the residents of Clay Pit Brook, Williamsburg, are worried. I served on the City of Lowell Task Force along with the residents of Clay Pit Brook, Williamsburg, and the National Park for many years, and we had dozens of meetings to help preserve the historic Flashboard Dam. We lost a good fight, but then we focused on flood mitigation, with the head pond of the Merrimack River being held back by the new Bladder Dam that would come, causing the water table to rise and the constant pumps to run in the Clay Pit neighborhood. We met several times in subcommittees, and some of those councils that are here today. Remember the frustration that we had in dealing with Anel to nail them down on what would be the right thing to do in a flood event. One meeting, Mr. Manager, was you attended with you and your colleagues from the state delegation at the Lowell Elks, hosted by Congresswoman Nikki Songus, where I asked point blank to John Dollard from Anel if he would lower the Bladder Dam ahead of a flooding event. He said yes, and I walked down from the head table and I shook his hand. Well, where I come from, Mr. Manager, members of the City Council, my dad taught me that a handshake was a man's word, and I asked this administration, council, and future administrations to hold Anel to their word. And now this statement, this is from Bob Gagnon. Good evening, councilors. The agreement of the city signed with Anel to lower the inflatable when the river reaches a certain level downstream was negotiated with a river level too high and lowered too late. Anel provided this by lowering the inflatable last year, but agreed that the levels were reached. We should have a signed agreement reflecting the lower river heights that would force Anel to lower the inflatable well ahead of high flows and to offer the best protection against flooding. We need to coordinate the lowering of these inflatable dams on the Merrimack ahead of flooding so that each dam isn't sending water downstream at the worst possible time. Leading up to Hurricane Irene, the state ordered the lowering of all reservoirs in the state that would allow more room to accept heavy rains and prevent flooding. We should find out how that lowering was ordered and work to have that happen again. When we face potential springtime flooding from the spring thaw, we should also be afforded that same flood protection from river flooding as was afforded to other Massachusetts residents because of Hurricane Irene. Thank you sincerely, Bob Gagnon. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of City Council. Oh, by the way, Mr. Manager, thank you for all you did. The city's a better place since you came along, and congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Belay. Anybody else want to be heard on the motion? If I may ask for permission to speak from here, The reason I filed the motions, I want to see what plan we have in place, who's involved, because to deal with this effect of man-made or natural disaster, flood is one of them, chemical spill, bomb threat, severe winter weather. I do believe, though, that any plans need to have a community involvement to have it successful. So that's why I filed the motion. I hope to have further discussion on this subject matter, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of people if we do it in a subcommittee level. So I thank you for all your support. Next motion, Councilor Cirillo requests City Manager provide a report update the Council regarding installation of meter for homeless program, report to include costs for installation, number of meter installed, and organizations to whom collected fund will be distributed. Do I hear second? Second, Councilor Malinazzo. Councilor Cirillo, go ahead.
Hi, yes, thank you. I recall the city manager mentioning a couple of different programs with regards to the homeless, and one that really hit home with me was the meters for homeless. So it basically it's to install meters around the city to collect money that organizations serving the homeless can apply for. Small change in credit card donations made through uniquely designed meters. And 100% of the donations are distributed to the various service providers that work for the homeless. And I looked this up, and in Denver, in 2013, it was implemented, and it's called Denver's Road Home Program. In Pasadena, California, in 2014, they installed meters around the city, and it's called the Real Change Movement. And 9 meters generated $12,000 in recent years. In Atlanta, the program is called Redirect Giving. And in New Haven, Connecticut, it was implemented in 2017, and it's called Give Change to Make Change. So I would like to have the city manager look into this and continue in his efforts, because I think it's a really fantastic program. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilor Elliott?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea too. Mr. Manager, is it possible to also refer this to the Hunger Homeless Commission? I know that we just made some appointments, and it might be good this might be a good opportunity to have them start meeting again a little bit more on a regular basis, but certainly I get a report on this, but we do have a Hunger Homeless Commission, and they certainly should also be engaged if there's no objection from the maker of the motion.
Do I hear second to that, so that when the report comes, refer to the Hunger Homeless Commission?
I have no objection.
Second, Councilor Mercier. All right, the motion adopt. Second motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr.
Councilor
Chairman,
Kennedy.
if I could, through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, didn't we several months kick off a program having to do with the homeless? How is that coming along? Did that just did it just not take off, or what's an update on that, if you could give us?
You mean the homeless in downtown? Yeah, we had an original meeting relative with all of the partners, and we're going to be reassembling them because they had to do some research relative to housing and things like that, but we'll be reconvening that group to discuss where we've gotten to this date and time.
So would that group, should that group take up this issue as well?
We can bring up the issue on it with them also, but the Hunger Homeless meets in the mayor's reception room also.
Okay.
We can include both of them.
Maybe we're not talking about the same thing. Wasn't there a program that we kicked off, and didn't you have people downtown?
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the Change for Change. I'm sorry. Yes. We set out and we set up the Change for Change to get rid of, or reduce panhandling. And we ran into some issues with the parking meters as far as the legality of using municipal funds to put them out. And then who was going to get the funding? We're still working on those issues, but we did start the public relations campaign, and we've put new signs up in the hotspots for panhandling. And on those signs, there are websites that you can go to do donations. So yes, you're right. That's the Change for Change initiative.
Right, so maybe that program or that effort could take a look at Councilor Cirillo's motion, and also look at the communities that Councilor Cirillo mentioned, and maybe there are ways or methods that they've used that would make us be more successful than we've been to date.
Yep, good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Motion adopt. Councilor Cirillo, second motion, that is request the city manager provide an update presentations to the Economic Development Subcommittee of the plans for the Hampton Canal Innovative District. Set presentations to include garage plan, first floor commercial space in the garage, lighting, the swamp lock, and the infrastructures transportation plan as they related to lot overpass traffic improvement. Second by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Cirillo.
I think that this is very self-explanatory. I went into good depth here, so
Good job.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to be?
Yeah.
Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the city manager. I do think this is a pretty comprehensive motion, but I would ask regarding the garages that are planned for the Hamilton Canal Innovation District, do the current plans include commercial space on the first floor of those garages?
No, it doesn't.
And did they originally?
Yes, they did. Could you come up, Diane, and
Thank you. The original intention was to have commercial space on the ground floor. We ran into a shortage of parking spaces in the Hamilton Canal District. In order to maximize the parking in the garage, we removed those spaces. I mean, the storefronts.
Okay. Why couldn't you just go up another level?
We are bounded by the form-based code, and we can only go up to a certain level because of the code and the canal place requirements.
So how many more spaces does it give you?
Do you remember that on the first floor?
At least 100.
At least 100.
100 spaces?
Yeah.
Okay.
By eliminating those. We had talked at one point about having some little alcoves on the first floor so that we could place art in those alcoves and create kind of a commercial feel to the building. We've still looked into that a little bit, and if there is some extra space, we may try to do that. And leave room also for food trucks and things like that to be able to access the area.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I could, through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, I understand that, it's good to maximize on the number of parking spaces there, but these structures, when they're built, are going to be large structures, and if there is no commercial space or activity there on the first floor, then it's just going to be dead space there. And so I really think we should take another look at it. And I know that, probably the city looks at the experience that they had with the early garage, and where we did put commercial space on the first floor of the early garage, and it didn't work out all that well, and there weren't that many people that were attracted to that space. And it took quite a bit of time before that space was filled up. However, I do think that the Hamilton Canal Innovation District will be a more attractive location than the location of the early garage when we were looking to fill that up with commercial tenants. And I would point out that the tenants that are there, I think, are still there and have been there now for many years. So I think it's something that we should maybe take a look at. I just think that we should try to envision what that district will look like once it's fully developed. And I just think that it could be that once it is fully developed, we may wish that we had gone with some commercial development on the first floor.
yeah, we'll look at that because we're doing the design right now. We'll have a conversation relative to that.
Can I just add one more thing? On the facade, along the interior of the Hamilton Canal district, the garage facade, will be a lot of glass, and there'll be a parking office there, and then directly in front of that, there's a small park. And we envision that being used for public events. The folk festival will have some activities there, so we will program that space so that there's activity in that area. And also, we can have food trucks and different things. So we tried to mediate the removal of the commercial space with looking at some of the programming, because parking is very, very tight, as you know, in Hamilton Canal. So we will look at it again, though.
Okay.
Okay.
I can understand what you're saying, I just don't necessarily agree with you at this point, but certainly, maybe I can be convinced.
Okay.
It's just that I think that, I remember Council Rourke, when he was here, mentioning that it was gonna be important, that the Hamilton Canal Innovation District, once it's fully developed, not just be a 9 to 5 district. That we don't want it to have it be that everybody just leaves there at 5 o'clock and then the place is a ghost town until the next morning at 9. And I think that one of the ways that we do that is providing commercial space and reasons to come into the district after 5 o'clock. And so the garage doesn't have to be part of that, but I think we should think long and hard before we just cut it out of the mix just for parking. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott and Councillor Leahy. Councillor Elliott.
No, I don't object looking at it. We haven't had much success with other garages, but I think the point is, or the question I'd like to ask is, Diane referred to the form-based code that prohibits us from going up higher. We already know that parking is desirable, and we're actually looking at some point potentially at a second garage, correct? So when we're talking about 100 spaces, that's pretty important. Could you explain or get a report perhaps as part of this rather than now on why we couldn't go up another floor? Is it because of the zoning code? Is it because of aesthetics? Is it because of any number of things? Because I do think we have to maximize at this point, knowing full well that we already are looking at a second garage. So thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Leahy.
Thank you. I was going to ask the same thing that Councilor Elliott asked, if we get the report on why you couldn't go up again. So could we ask the director to come back?
Diane,
Just initially, why did you say there's height restrictions?
Because of the form-based code, that it's a 7-story building, as was agreed upon when we developed the form-based code. So anything built in the Hamilton Canal District has to conform to the form-based code, which, as you know, is the zoning code for just that area.
Okay, so any new building won't be any higher than 7 stories?
Each parcel has a different height
okay.
restriction.
All
We
right.
also had certain specifications that were put in place for the Canal Place residents, where we had to step back the building and have a green roof and some things like that. But we can include the discussion of the design in the motion about all of the projects
Okay.
next week.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, if I could, if we can't go up, could we go down? So,
We're going
is
down.
that-
We're already going down.
Okay, so
yeah.
could we go down further? I mean, I don't know if that's more expensive than above ground construction, but maybe that can be included as well.
It's very expensive, but I think it's a great idea to have a motion just to discuss that design, and we can explain it all to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Diane. So motions passed or adopted. Councilor Mercier requests the city manager provide an update regarding Plain and Tanner Street corridor redevelopment plans, including the effect it will have on 168 Plain Street, the Lowell car wash. Do I hear second? Councilor Kennedy, second. Councilor Mercier, go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I realize that through this motion, I am asking for an update on the Tanner Street project, and through the response put forth by Councilor Leahy's motion for a report on all the urgent projects, Tanner Street was included in that, and we learned that Watermark has nearly completed design and engineering for the realignment of Tanner Street. There are remaining tasks, including performance of a traffic study at the intersection of Plain Tanner entrance, that entrance. We learned that the design and the engineering for this project is funded by a $250,000 fiscal 16 earmark. But my motion is also asking, how does this realignment affect the business at 168 Plain Street, namely the Lowell Car Wash? The Lowell Car Wash is a business proudly serving the Merrimack Valley for over 50 years. The family owned this business and started it in 1960. So through this motion, I'm asking, how does their future look like with the widening? Are they affected in any way? And if so, how? That's all I'm asking for with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murcia. Motion's adopt. Next motion by Councilor Murcia and Councilor Samaras, requesting city manager review possibilities of reestablish the position of downtown coordinator, since it's two people, no second needed.
Yes.
Councilor Murcia, go
Thank you
ahead.
very, as you know, that the mayor, Mayor Samaras co-sponsored this motion because he thought it was that important as well. In his travels, he came across some people that said that this would be good to revitalize this position. We received a wonderful detailed report from Diane Trad, the DPD director, on all the ways the city's Economic Development Office is charged with business recruitment and retention, and that's all well and good. We even had this beautiful picture that says, I want more than business, I want a passion, and it shows different owners of businesses in the area here. And they want a place where we can do what we know and love, where businesses have thrived and evolved for hundreds of years, and where the community is as ready to give back to us as we are to give to them. That's why they chose Lowell. This is a beautiful saying. This is great. That's why we should designate a person, some sort of a coordinator for the city, to visit businesses regularly to see if they are okay. I know when I go downtown and I go to businesses, I ask them, how you doing, this, that, and the other. Has anybody from the city come in? I can see that they want to not get involved with telling me the answer. Some say, well, yeah, I see them once in a while. I want a good relationship here. But retention to me means that once we recruited your business here, we won't just forget about you. We will visit you periodically and ask, how you doing? Is there anything we can do to help? Don't just rely on the Chamber of Commerce to do their job, but we as a city, we must be concerned as well, and all work together as a team. Thus, this motion allows for someone in the ED Department, Economic Development Office, to address this issue. I'm not even saying we need a new person or a new designated person with a salary and establish a new person here, a new employee here. I'm saying that maybe in the Economic Development Office, we could designate maybe one, maybe three people to go out every now and then periodically to say, this is the downtown coordinator team. And you know what? The businesses in the downtown, it's one thing. That's great that this is the downtown business hub, but let's not forget about the businesses that are in Belvedere or in Couple Square or up at the corridor of Bridge Street. These are businesses that sustain our city as well. And so this is the gist of that motion that Mayor Samaras and I thought was so important. The position is important. Downtown/business coordinator, not just downtown business, but all over the city. So this is the gist of this motion, and I'm sticking by it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Murcia. Anybody else? Motion adopt. Announcement.
Chairman.
Go ahead,
If I
Councilor
could,
Kennedy.
before we go to announcements, I'd like to request the suspension of the rules in order to make a request of the mayor. So if there's no objection, if we could do that by general consent.
Do I hear second? Second by Councilor Cirillo. Go ahead, Councilor Kennedy.
The mayor isn't here this evening, but given the notification that we got from the city manager, we're going to have to go through the process of selecting a new chief executive for the city very shortly. And so I would just like to request that the mayor set up a time and maybe a special meeting, or have it be part of the meeting on the 27th of February to talk about the procedure that we'll use going forward in order to select a new city manager.
Right. The mayor actually communicated with me as well in a informal request that taking the April 27 as the date for a discussion around the process and all that. Also, I believe the mayor spoke to Councilor Elliott and asking Councilor Elliott to give a brief overview of it, of the selection of the process, because Councilor Elliott was the one who was mayor then involved in the selection of the manager. So
I think, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
that Mary Callery is kind of the person that sets up the process. I don't know, I guess she's not here this evening, but I would think that, I think she set up the process for us the last time and probably would do it again this time as well.
Actually, I understood that. The mayor said too that April 27, prior to that the mayor's going to have the HR director send all of us the job description, responsibility, and so on, that on the 27th that we will then discuss this. But given that Councilor Elliott was the mayor then, maybe a quick overview of us is also helpful before Councilor Elliott say what he need to say. Along with that, the 27th of April, I would respectfully ask my fellow councilor to have a light agenda so that we have a long discussion on this, so that a detailed discussion on the process. So, Councilor Elliott, go ahead.
Sure.
February 27th, though?
Excuse me, Council?
You mean February 27th?
February.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You kept
and-
saying April, so.
February 27th, sir. Thank you. Councilor Elliott, go ahead.
I did speak with Mayor Samaras a couple of times today, and I was the mayor at that time, and as was mentioned, I mean, Mary Callery, hopefully, she should attend, because we laid the process out similarly to the process that we use for at one time the clerk and certainly the auditor. But I think the time frame is most important, and at establishing that time frame to advertise and where we're going to advertise and the length of time. Perhaps it will be helpful to have Mary Callery lay out a schedule if we're going to use the same process, which is essentially 2 weeks or so to advertise, receive them, certainly submit our choices to the clerk, was the process in the past, through a numbering system, rating the numbers, and then the top 5 or 3, depending upon the desire of the council and how many candidates you want to interview. I think it can be a succinct process, but certainly I think the 27th, that use that meeting rather than we could call a special meeting, but it seems like it would make sense to make it maybe under an item under the mayor's portion of the agenda, to have that discussion and formalize the process.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Anybody else? I know that Councilor Conway is not here. He's sick. He has a knee surgery. And Mayor Samaras, he has a flu. Up here, I want to wish both of them a speedy recovery so they can come back and join us. So any other, there's no other announcement. I believe, Councilor Leahy, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I just want to mention today at Lowell High School, they have the 5th annual Science and Education Fair. And it was very well attended. It's run by the director, Martha Cohn, and it had about 9 middle schools and some high school participants. But, I mean, what a fair. The cafeteria was packed. I think they had about 100 different experiments or tables set up that they had numbers of judges, and we were each handed about 3 or 4 demonstrations to go around and take a look at, and it was quite impressive. They did a heck of a job over there, and all the students and the parents and the teachers need to be commended. And it's just one more example of why, we need to get this high school done correctly, because there was a great central location. Kids, like I said, from 9 middle schools there with all their experiments, all the parents. You could all gather there. They had food. 3-hour event. It was very impressive. And these are the types of things that we need to keep going on in our schools too. We need to stress to the schools that, we need to find the money, and we need to find the people to continue these projects. They have one that comes up in the summertime, and that's a great event also. So We just need to make sure that we keep working with our school leaders to keep funding these projects and to keep having these fairs go on, because they're so important. I mean, the kids' faces, if you could see them, and when they explain their project to you. My 3 projects, one of them was on DNA. I couldn't even understand it, so I'm trying to follow along, but it was a great event. So congratulations to everybody over at the school department.
Thank you, Councilor Leahy, Councilor Cirillo.
I just want to say that I was also a judge at that event, and I 100% agree with Councilor Leahy. It was fantastic. They did a great job, and it was a pleasure being there, so it was
Thank you,
wonderful.
Councilor. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Mercier. Are those in favor? Aye. See you next.
Good job, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you.